Have you been in a situation you come home from work or studies and then you're tired and you still fire up tons of MDTs online, you play until 2, 3 a.m. and the next day you're exhausted? My name is Andreas, and in this video I'm going to talk about the top 5 mistakes players make when it comes to poker after work. If you've seen my previous video on how I became a professional poker player, you will discover that I was in your shoes as well. Up to 2 years ago I was studying and then teaching, and then after I was done with that, I was basically playing poker tournaments online, and I made some of the mistakes I'm going to talk about in this video. I also wish that somebody told me back then some of the adjustments that you can make in order to avoid those traps and in order to make more money at the tables or lose less money at the tables if you're not a winning player yet. Let's start with mistake number 1. Don't play when you're tired. Now this sounds really simple, but if you don't hate money, you actually want to pay attention to that. And sometimes that might just be that you take a transition element after work. Maybe you're just tired, but then if you take something in between work and playing poker, this can help you tremendously. Whether that is going to the gym, meditating, taking a nap, or walking your dog, all these transition elements help you in order to not play when you're tired, because you can actually recover after work, and you need that recovery phase in order to play better poker at the tables later in the evening. Number 2, don't play too many tables or for too long hours. After work, there's a high chance that your concentration will go down when you play too many tables at the same time. Only very few players can manage to keep up their concentration when they have to divide their attention between 10, 15, 20 tables online. For some others, it might even be that 6 tables are too much and you want to go down to 4 tables or 2 tables. You have to find out your own limits and what you're capable of, and then, be honest with yourself and evaluate your play. That changes depending on the amount of tables. When you're playing cash games or live poker, it might be that you're playing too many hours as well. And that might cause you to play poorer at the end of the session or just at the beginning of the session because you didn't follow tip number 1, where you don't have a transition element before you go into that session. So try to avoid those 2 things. And here's mistake number 3. Don't play MDTs and expect to win a lot of money at them. If you're actually coming from work and then playing a lot of MDTs, the problem with the MDTs in a tougher environment these days, especially online, is that a lot of the money is at the final tables. So if you're playing a tournament that has a long or a slow structure and you're ending up in heads up or 3-handed action, if you're just slightly tired at that point because you've been working and you're playing against a professional player who hasn't been working before, you're just at a big disadvantage. Heads-up poker is not so easy or not as easy as 9-handed play. And when someone else has studied it a bit more and then even has the additional advantage of not being so tired, you're just getting buried in those formats or at the end of a tournament. So not being able to win as many heads-ups or playing well at 3-handed situation will basically cost you a lot of money at the tables. So you cannot expect to be winning as much in those MDTs as if you hadn't worked before that. That's directly connected to mistake number 4. Don't play for too high stakes when you don't know you're a winner. Well, how do you find out that you're a winner? Well, one thing is you look into your database, for example, in Hold'em 2 Manager, and then you figure out, okay, how much BB per 100 am I winning in most 9-handed and down to 6-handed situations? It's a little bit of a trap because, as I mentioned before, the short-handed play, the final table play is very important. And then also other factors such as ICM come into play. And if you're not excelling at that, you might lose all your edge that you've gained earlier in the highest buy-ins that you're playing and just give it basically to all the regulars who are better than you at those situations. So what I would suggest is that you basically find optimal game selection, that you're playing tournaments that fit your skill the most, and you don't start with too high buy-ins at the first time. Because if you just start out with being stuck thousands of dollars just until you realize that you're actually not winning at those games, you've probably made one of the biggest mistakes you can make in poker. So try to avoid that. Last but not least, mistake number 5, don't play when you don't want to play. This is a bit a controversial one because you might just confuse it with quitting or not being persistent at the game. When you're stuck buying or two, it doesn't mean that you have to stop playing because you now don't feel like it anymore. You know, that's another skill to train, and I will address it in other videos. If you're stuck a bit, you have to sometimes stick through those downswings or mini downswings and, you know, have the mindset to keep on playing. I'm talking about when you're coming home from work and you're tired and you actually don't feel like playing at all because you had a rough day at work. Then it doesn't make sense to start playing. Once you start playing for all the good reasons, because you had those, you know, this transition phase between it with probably going to the gym, and you actually feel fresh to play after that break, then it makes sense to stick to playing. Maybe take a short break if you're maybe stuck a few binds, but then keep on playing because, you know, the reason why you want to quit is not because you didn't feel like it in the first place. I hope you got that small difference between those two. Now, I would like to hear from you guys what you've experienced when it comes to poker after work. What were your biggest mistakes in the past and what have you done to figure things out and how it works for you optimally? Have those mistakes or those tips in the video helped you? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to hit those like button down there and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content, and see you for the next one.